Have you ever imagined that a simple letter could cross time? That words written in silence could reach the future, carrying secrets that perhaps were never meant to be revealed? Close your eyes. Tonight you will hear the story of a hidden message, destined for a tomorrow that has not yet arrived. The night was calm, so calm that it seemed suspended between worlds. The sky, dark as ink, allowed the stars to shine with rare intensity, as though they were silent witnesses to something being born. In the heart of that night, inside a laboratory forgotten by time, a solitary man held in his hands a sheet of paper. It was not just paper. It was an empty space about to be filled with something meant to outlast centuries. As the scientist looked at that blank page, his mind traveled beyond the walls that surrounded him. He was not writing for himself, nor for the eyes watching him in that present time. He was writing for those who would come later, for those who might one day find his words, hidden like a treasure within silence. That was the force moving his hand, the conviction that even in a distant future, a voice could still be heard through the paper. The pen glided slowly, each stroke heavy with intention. The subtle sound of the tip meeting the paper blended with the faint breath of wind slipping through the cracks of the laboratory. He wrote as though speaking to the invisible, as though entrusting the unknown with a fragment of his soul. He knew there was no guarantee that the letter would reach its destination. But he also knew that every secret carries a chance, however small, of being discovered. The air around him felt different, charged with a silent energy. Each word inscribed transformed the space, as though the room itself understood the weight of the moment. The shadows of shelves lined with flasks and instruments became accomplices to his writing. The old books, piled and covered with dust, seemed to listen. Even time itself, which usually flows fast and unyielding, seemed to hesitate, waiting respectfully for the letter to be finished. Can you imagine the weight of writing to someone who does not yet exist? The questions that echo: who will this person be? In what kind of world will they live? Will there still be stars like those shining in the sky that night? Will the words hold meaning, or will they become fragments of a forgotten language? The scientist had no answers. But he had faith in what only imagination can sustain, the certainty that every message, if true, will one day find its destination. He wrote without hurry, letting each phrase flow like a quiet river, as though the night itself dictated the pace of the pen. There was no anxiety, only surrender. It was as if he were building an invisible bridge, word by word, connecting the present to the future. A bridge that cannot be seen, but can be felt. And as he imagined who might read his letter, the scientist allowed himself to dream. Perhaps it would be a curious young person, stumbling by chance into that forgotten laboratory. Perhaps an entire generation, searching for answers amid chaos. Or perhaps just one silent soul, opening the envelope as if opening a secret meant for one heart alone. What was written inside? That does not matter, not yet. The true mystery is not in the immediate content, but in the existence of the letter itself. A sealed message, guarded by time, waiting for the right moment to awaken. That is the suspense that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. That is what stirs the mind, even as the body prepares to rest. As the night deepened, the scientist sighed. A sigh not of fatigue, but of hope. as though each word he had written was also a flame lit against the darkness of forgetting. He did not write to be remembered, but to remind the future that the present existed, that someone dreamed, that someone believed. And so, in the heart of absolute silence, the letter of a scientist to the future was born. An object both fragile and powerful. Fragile, because it could be lost, burned, or forgotten. Powerful, because even unread, it carried the promise of crossing centuries. Now imagine that this letter has reached you. Imagine that the words, kept secret for so long, have finally been opened before your eyes. What would you feel? Curiosity? Responsibility? Or perhaps only a deep inner silence, as though receiving a gift you never expected? This is the story that unfolds from here. A story not only to be heard, but to be felt. A story that blends science and dream, reason and mystery, wakefulness and rest. Because every night, just like every letter, is also an invitation to cross the unknown with trust, and to allow deep sleep to carry you to the right destination. And while the letter rests folded, sealed, hidden somewhere within the memory of time, you too may rest. Each word echoes softly, not only as a narrative but as a breath of calm, inviting body and mind to sink into stillness. For just as the letter waits patiently for the future, your body waits patiently for sleep. And it will come, gentle, inevitable, serene. Before we begin, take a deep breath, allow your body to relax, allow your mind to slow down. This is your moment of rest. Let every word guide you gently into this journey, where science and dream meet. With each slow inhale, feel the fresh air filling your lungs, expanding your chest, bringing vitality. And with each calm exhale, notice how small fragments of worry, tension, and haste leave your body, dissolving into the air. Nothing needs to be done now. There is no urgency. Only this moment, this space of calm, this invitation to inner silence. Imagine each muscle in your body receiving the gentle command to release. Your shoulders, so often burdened by the weight of days, now let go. Your arms, always ready for action, find lightness and stillness. Your legs, that carried so many journeys, now rest firmly, surrendered to the embrace of the surface beneath you. Even your face, carrying the marks of expression, softens gradually, as though smiling inward. As your body settles, your mind finds another rhythm. Thoughts that once ran quickly begin to drift away, like clouds carried by the wind. The space inside your mind expands, like a sky opening to reveal new stars. And it is in this space that the story will blossom, a space free, clear, ready to welcome images, sounds, and sensations. Allow yourself to listen, not only with your ears but with your entire being. Every word is not just a sound, but also a seed of tranquility, planted gently within you. These seeds grow in silence, transforming your inner landscape into a garden of calm. Now, imagine yourself walking toward an invisible door. It is not made of wood or iron, but of sensations. On one side lies the weight of the day gone by, tasks, memories, responsibilities. On the other, a new space, a territory of serenity and mystery, where science meets poetry, and where deep sleep can begin. This door is already open, waiting only for you to step through. As you take this imagined step, notice how the environment around you changes. The air feels lighter, the sounds grow softer, like distant melodies, and the very atmosphere seems to carry a promise of rest. It feels like entering a silent library, where each book holds secrets that can only be revealed when you close your eyes and surrender to dreams. Let your breathing be your guide. It is the compass of this passage. Each time air enters, you draw closer to the future written in this letter. Each time it leaves, you move away from the distractions of the present. A simple yet sacred rhythm, carrying you deeper into the heart of the story. There is no rush. Time here does not follow the ticking of a clock, but the pace of your tranquility. The slower you move, the deeper you can dive. The deeper you go, the stronger the connection becomes between you and the secret waiting to be revealed. You are about to enter a journey that unites mystery and serenity. A letter written in the silence of a distant night will serve as the bridge between worlds. And now, you become the guardian of these words. Take another deep breath, exhale slowly, and allow your mind to walk softly. With each passing moment, deep sleep draws closer, like a discreet visitor, waiting patiently for you. You do not need to call it. It will come, inevitably, carried by the calm and mystery of this story. And so, the invitation is made. The present dissolves, the mind rests, and the future begins to whisper. It was night when the scientist wrote his letter. The laboratory was immersed in shadows, illuminated only by the gentle glow of an old lamp. The instruments rested in silence, as though even science itself were waiting for those words. The room was wide, yet silence filled it completely. Glass flasks lined along the shelves reflected the faint light like tiny captive stars. Scattered papers covered the wooden desk, bearing unfinished calculations, interrupted formulas, and sketches frozen in time. The air carried a distinct scent, a mixture of dust, ink, and something metallic, as though the very space preserved the memory of past experiments. The laboratory clocks, usually relentless with their ticking, seemed to have slowed. It was as though time itself had respectfully stepped back, unwilling to disturb the solemn moment. Even the wind outside, whispering through the night, slipped through the cracks more softly, as if asking permission to enter. The scientist sat at his desk, surrounded by ancient books whose pages held centuries of knowledge. Yet tonight, none of them seemed enough. What he longed to write could not be found in recorded theories or established formulas. It was something beyond science, something human, secret, destined to transcend the limits of his own existence. The walls bore marks of past experiments, stains, scratches, traces of fire and water. Each detail seemed to watch in silence as the writing took form. The instruments, still and unmoving, reflected the glow like watchful eyes. And at the center of it all, only him, an ordinary man, transforming his memories and discoveries into words. It was as though the entire laboratory had become an accomplice to the moment. The objects were not merely lifeless things, but silent witnesses. The lamp flickered gently, casting shadows that shifted as though dancing, keeping pace with the slow rhythm of the pen across the paper. The atmosphere was dense, yet not heavy. It was the density of meaning, like air thickened before a revelation. Silence was not absence, but presence, a living, mysterious, almost tangible presence. It felt as if the entire space understood the importance of the letter and held itself still in reverence. In the heart of the night, the scientist was not merely writing a message, but performing a gesture. A gesture that might one day cross centuries. Each word written was like a stone carefully placed on an invisible bridge. A bridge connecting that quiet, shadowed laboratory to a distant future where unknown eyes might one day read his message. And so, in that space forgotten by the world, a story was born that would echo long beyond its time. The laboratory was only a setting, yet on that night it became a guardian. A silent guardian of secrets, patiently waiting for the future to arrive. Each stroke of the pen seemed to carry more than ink. It carried emotions, memories, discoveries, and hopes. He wrote as though engraving a secret into the heart of the night, knowing that only the future could truly understand. The movement of his hand was slow, almost ritualistic, as if each curve of the letters held the power to cross not only the paper but also time itself. The soft sound of the nib scratching across the surface blended with the steady rhythm of his breathing, creating a cadence that resembled a hidden song. A discrete symphony, composed of silence and tiny sounds, yet one that conveyed the feeling of eternity. On those lines were not only facts, but fragments of life. Each word seemed to be born from a blend of reason and emotion, results of experiments he never dared to share, reflections he had kept only to himself, memories burning like hidden embers in his mind. By writing, he was not only recording but also releasing. The hand that wrote trembled slightly, not out of weakness, but from the weight of what was being revealed. There was a clear awareness that these words might never be read. And yet, the need to write them was greater than any doubt. As though within him there was an inevitable call to record his existence, his vision, and his dreams. Each letter formed with precision, yet with tenderness. It was as if the scientist knew the paper was not merely a physical support but also a guardian of something immaterial. The simple act of writing became a bridge between worlds, the world of the present, finite, and the world of the future, invisible, eternal. The room around him seemed to follow the rhythm of his hand. Shadows on the walls moved gently, as though dancing to the pace of the words. The flickering lamp flame cast images that resembled ancient symbols, as if the very space sought to translate what was being written into a language beyond the human. There was hope in every line. Hope that, even if the world forgot the author, the words would endure. Hope that, amid the noise of other ages, someone would one day find his silent voice and recognize it. More than recording facts, he was writing to plant a future. The act of writing was also an act of surrender. He knew he had no control over the fate of the letter. It might be lost, ignored, or never discovered. But that did not diminish the importance of the gesture. On the contrary, it made it even more necessary. Because writing was not only about ensuring reading, it was about ensuring existence. And so, line after line, the scientist's hand became an extension of his soul. With every word, a fragment of himself was placed upon the page. As though, in some way, even after the body rested, that writing would remain alive, breathing silently, waiting for the right moment to be discovered. But what was in that letter? Was it a warning, a revelation, or perhaps a dream hidden among theories and calculations? Perhaps you will discover it before deep sleep embraces you completely. The question lingered in the air like a solitary star, shining brighter than all the rest. With every word written, the paper seemed to breathe, alive with the presence of the scientist. What could be so important as to be hidden away, locked inside drawers, destined for eyes that might never see it? Some would say it was a warning, perhaps of changes he foresaw, discoveries that could reshape the world, or dangers that needed to be avoided. Others would believe the letter was more intimate, more human, confessions never meant to be spoken aloud, yet entrusted to paper that would receive them in silence, without judgment. And there was still the possibility that it was something gentler, a dream. A wish that could not fit within the limits of science, but that had to be preserved like a flame sheltered in the darkness. The uncertainty did not bring anxiety. On the contrary, it offered a gentle invitation to imagine. The listener could allow themselves to wonder, to speculate, to create inner images while the body slowly surrendered to rest. For the true power of a mystery does not lie only in its answer, but in the calm that arises from contemplation. The scientist wrote without hurry, aware that he might never be able to fully explain what he felt. And yet, that was what made the letter precious. It carried the unspeakable, the immeasurable, something that could not be weighed or calculated, but only felt. And perhaps, as you think about this, you too will realize that there are secrets within yourself, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Each deep breath is like slowly opening the envelope of that hidden letter. Each sigh is like reading another line, never quite knowing what will come next. Sleep draws nearer, carrying with it the promise of answers that perhaps only dreams can provide. And so, the mystery remains suspended. What was in that letter? A warning, a revelation, or merely a dream? The only certainty is that as you relax, the mind wanders between possibilities, and each possibility is a path leading you closer to rest. When finished, the scientist folded the paper carefully, placed it inside a wax-sealed envelope, and hid it in a concealed drawer, behind dusty books. It was like burying an invisible treasure, waiting for hands that did not yet exist. The gesture was slow, almost ceremonial. As though each movement was part of a silent ritual, meant not only to hide but also to preserve. The scientist's fingers trembled slightly as they sealed the envelope. Not out of fear, but with the awareness that he was delivering a fragment of himself to the future. Each fold was a farewell. Each touch on the paper a reminder that it no longer belonged to him. The drawer creaked softly as it opened, revealing the dark, forgotten space. The scent of aged wood mixed with dust created the impression of entering a secret temple. The scientist shifted the unmoving books, blanketed by layers of dust, like silent guardians. There, among shadows and stillness, the letter found its hiding place. The sound of the envelope settling at the bottom echoed like the final note of a long, discreet melody. There was no announcement, no witness. Only the absolute silence of the night, accomplice to a secret that would now live alone, apart from the world, guarded by time. It was as if the scientist had planted an invisible seed. No one knew when, or if, it would ever grow. But the very existence of that seed changed everything. For now there was a promise that one day, someone might open that drawer, brush away the dust from the books, and find there a fragment of the past daring to speak to the future. The space around seemed to change after this gesture. The laboratory breathed differently, as though it had just received something sacred. The lamp flickered, casting shadows that shifted across the books, as if greeting the new guardian resting among them. Even the wind, once timid through the cracks, now seemed to sing more softly, honoring the silence of the freshly hidden secret. And so, the letter fell asleep. The scientist closed the drawer calmly, knowing that from that moment onward he no longer had control. It was like entrusting a treasure to time itself, accepting that it might never be found. Yet in his heart there was serenity. For even if no one ever opened that drawer, the very act of hiding had already transformed the present into eternity. Outside, the wind whispered through the windows, as though it wished to carry those words far away. The distant song of a stream cradled the night, transforming silence into gentle music. It was as if nature itself had become the guardian of that hidden letter, wrapping the laboratory in a quiet symphony, subtle yet full of meaning. The trees swayed slightly, dancing to the rhythm of the wind. Their leaves brushed against each other, producing a sound like an ancient whisper, as if voices from the past were exchanging confidences. The scientist, though focused on the act of hiding, could feel this invisible music. It was as though the night said to him, "You are not alone. Your words are already part of something greater." The stream, flowing in the distance, kept its steady cadence. The water, striking softly against the stones, created liquid notes repeating like mantras, slowing time and calming the mind. Whoever listened to that song felt no need to hurry. It was enough to be carried, as though each drop was a reminder that everything flows, everything renews, everything finds its way. The wind, insistent yet delicate, wandered through the corridors of the laboratory, slipping through the cracks of the wood. It came not to disturb, but to take part. It carried with it the damp scent of night, blended with the freshness of earth and the faint fragrance of flowers that only bloomed beneath the moon. It was a living breath, caressing the room like invisible hands. Inside the laboratory, the sound of the night was not noise but companionship. It filled the space like a gentle presence, as though each current of air and each note of the stream were threads in a fabric that wrapped around the newly hidden secret. Silence was no longer empty, but melody. For those listening to this story, it is like lying beneath an open sky, feeling the breeze against the skin and the sound of water soothing the thoughts. The body slowly surrenders, as though resting beside the stream, lulled into sleep by its song. The mystery of the letter remains, but now it is the sound of the night that guides toward rest. And so, nature became a partner in memory. While the letter rested in hiding, the wind and water whispered their own promises, that nothing is lost, that everything finds an echo somewhere, sometime. Above the laboratory, the starry sky shone brightly. The constellations seemed to watch in silence, eternal witnesses to the secret written. Each point of light flickered as though responding to the scientist's gesture, recognizing in him the greatness of one who dared to entrust his thoughts to the future. The night was clear, with no clouds to hide the splendor of the heavens. The moon, high and serene, cast a gentle glow upon the roof of the laboratory, softly illuminating the dusty windows. It was as if nature itself had arranged a silent stage, and the stars were the eternal audience, incapable of forgetting what they beheld. The constellations, as old as time itself, watched patiently. Perhaps they had witnessed other secrets being hidden, other letters being written, other human hearts leaving fragments of themselves upon parchment and paper. And yet, every new secret was unique, like a new star ignited in the vastness. To the scientist, those stars were not mere points in the sky. They were symbols of permanence, reminders that even the most fragile human gesture could be witnessed by the universe. As his hand sealed the letter and hid it away, he felt the sky watching him, engraving that instant into a memory that would never fade. The stars did not speak, but they shone with constancy. Their silence was eloquent, as though saying, "We saw. We know. We will keep it." That silent promise was not made with words, but with eternity reflected in every spark of light. And for those listening to this story, it is possible to imagine lying beneath that same starry sky, to feel the earth beneath the body, to gaze at the stars blinking slowly, soothing the mind. Each shimmer on the horizon becomes a reminder that human secrets are not alone, but accompanied by the patient gaze of the cosmos. The mystery of the letter remains, but now it has grown greater. For it is no longer only the scientist who keeps it, but also the stars, eternal witnesses that, night after night, continue to watch over the world. And so, the listener surrenders even further to rest. With every slow breath, the stars seem to shine brighter. With every deep sigh, the mind drifts closer to sleep, guided by the silent promise of the sky, that nothing is ever lost, and every human gesture finds its echo in eternity. The scientist took a deep breath, as though that sigh were the final seal upon the message. He knew the future was uncertain, but he trusted that the words would, somehow, find their way. The air filled his lungs slowly, expanding his chest, bringing with it a sense of renewal. As he released it, the tension stored in his hands, shoulders, and even his gaze seemed to dissolve into the silent space of the laboratory. It was a simple gesture, almost invisible, yet laden with meaning, the unseen seal that made the letter complete. That sigh was not his alone. It was as though the room itself breathed with him. The walls of the laboratory, the dusty books, the glass flasks resting on the shelves, all seemed to follow the rhythm, expanding and contracting in harmony. Even the flame of the lamp flickered once more, as though affirming, the letter was now ready to rest in the lap of time. For the scientist, breathing deeply was a way of accepting. Accepting that he had no control over the future. Accepting that his work might be lost, ignored, or forgotten. Yet also accepting that there was beauty in the mystery, and that trusting the unseen was as vital as calculating formulas or conducting experiments. That final breath carried not despair, but serenity. He did not seek certainty, he simply surrendered. Like one casting a message in a bottle into the sea, knowing it may never return, yet believing someone, somewhere, might one day discover it. And for those listening to this story, this deep breath becomes an invitation. Inhale slowly, hold it for a moment, and exhale gently, releasing all that no longer needs to remain. Repeat this act as the scientist did, each breath a seal of peace, each sigh a reminder that you too can trust in time. The final sigh echoed like gentle music, fading into the air and leaving only silence. But it was a different kind of silence, not empty, but full, filled with the certainty that even without immediate answers, there was a destiny waiting for those words. And so, the letter was sealed, not only by the envelope, but by the breath that carried the soul of the scientist. A breath linking present to future, the visible to the invisible, the restless mind to the deep sleep that now drew near. What exactly the letter said, no one knew. Some believed it contained warnings about the world. Others, that it was merely the outpouring of someone who lived between calculations and dreams. The mystery remains, an enigma kept by time. And perhaps it is precisely this silence that makes the letter so powerful. What is left unsaid becomes an invitation to imagination. By not knowing its contents, we fill the gaps with our own questions, desires, and fears. The paper hidden behind the dusty books holds not only the scientist's words, but also the infinite possibilities that every mind creates when reflecting upon it. Some would say it held scientific secrets, unfinished theories, formulas that could change the course of humanity, discoveries waiting for the right time to be understood. Others would say it was an intimate testament, the confessions of a solitary heart, thoughts never shared, memories too fragile to fit within experiments but too precious to be lost. And there are those who imagine it might have been nothing more than a dream, the reflection of a man who, despite reason and logic, also knew how to dream. Yet the mystery demands no answer. It exists to remain. Silence itself gives value to the invisible words, absence itself awakens presence. The letter is not merely a hidden object, it is a mirror. A reflection of all that we do not yet know, yet long to discover. For those listening to this story, the mystery becomes a bridge inward. What would you place in a letter to the future? What secrets would you hide away, waiting to be found one day? Perhaps the question needs no immediate answer. Perhaps the simple act of wondering is already enough to bring serenity. And so, the enigma remains untouched, like a flame that never dies. Time itself is the guardian of this secret, and while the letter rests, the mystery lives on. Not as something to provoke anxiety, but as a calm sigh, as a reminder that not everything needs to be unveiled to hold meaning. And in the silence of the night, this mystery blends with the wind, the stars, and the breath of those who rest. An enigma kept by time, transformed into a gentle song that cradles deep sleep. Years may pass, centuries perhaps. Yet the letter remains there, asleep, waiting. And while it waits, the listener of this story is also invited to dream of what might be written inside. Time moves silently, carrying away empires, cities, and human memories. And still, the letter endures. Hidden in the secret drawer, among books no longer opened, among shadows almost unnoticed, it rests. It does not age as bodies do, nor lose the essence it carries. It is like a hidden capsule, an echo preserved for a distant tomorrow. Generations come and go, the world changes, yet the paper remains faithful. Its journey is not one of footsteps, but of waiting. And this waiting is, in itself, a journey. for the same time that tries to erase also preserves. Each layer of dust upon the drawer is like a new page written by destiny itself, marking the years that pass. The listener, imagining this scene, is drawn to reflect. What happens to the secrets we keep? Do they too travel through time, sleeping within us until someone or something awakens them? The scientist's letter thus becomes a mirror of the personal mysteries each person carries within. And as the body relaxes, the mystery turns into poetry. To picture that forgotten envelope is like gazing at a distant star. We know it exists, even if we cannot touch it now. And that awareness alone is enough to quiet the mind. The sound of the wind, the glow of the stars, and the silence of the night continue to cradle the journey of the paper. It needs no haste. Its strength lies in enduring. And in imagining this, the listener is led into serenity, accepting that certain answers need not arrive now. The future will take care of them. And so, the letter rests, and with it, the listener rests too. For understanding that something can wait for its right time is a powerful invitation to surrender to deep sleep, with trust and peace. Between the present and the future lies an invisible bridge. Words are like steps on this crossing, carrying ideas beyond the night. The scientist knew this, and perhaps that is why he wrote. The letter was not just a folded sheet of paper, hidden away. It was a path, a secret corridor linking two distant times. Each line traced by his hand was like a plank carefully laid across that unseen abyss. He did not know who would cross it, nor when. But he trusted that someone, at some point in eternity, would step onto that path of words and feel his presence. The bridge had no form, could not be seen, but it could be felt. It was built of silence and ink, of guarded intentions and quiet dreams. A simple gesture that turned the fleeting into the eternal. In writing, the scientist ceased to be bound by his time and became a traveler, traveling across centuries, across minds, across worlds. And the listener, imagining this scene, realizes they too are walking this invisible bridge. Each deep breath is like a step. Each heartbeat a rhythm guiding the crossing. The letter, even if never read, already fulfills its purpose. It invites one to cross, to believe that future and present can meet. The stars above, silent witnesses, seemed to shine brighter as the words were written. As if saying, "The bridge is here, just trust." The wind slipping through the cracks carried the same message, whispering softly, "Continue, your words already travel." Even the distant stream seemed to echo, repeating in its liquid melody that everything flows, nothing stands still, everything finds passage. And in thinking of this, the body relaxes further still. For to understand that there is an invisible bridge between today and tomorrow is also to accept that there is a bridge between wakefulness and sleep. Each word of this story is a step leading the mind to the other side, where deep rest awaits. The scientist did not seek glory, nor recognition. He only wished that his ideas would find a destiny. And in writing, he built that hidden bridge, which continues to exist even now, in the moment you listen. A bridge that need not be seen to be real. Thus, the mystery of the letter is not only about what it said, but what it became, a link between worlds. And in feeling this, the listener too may cross gently, trusting that sleep is simply another crossing, calm, serene, inevitable. And now, you too can imagine that you have received this letter. You are the guardian of a secret no one else knows. What would you do? Would you keep it in silence, or allow others to dream with your words as well? At this moment, the story is no longer only about a scientist and his laboratory. It also becomes about you. For each person carries invisible letters within themselves, thoughts never spoken, memories never shared, dreams resting quietly, waiting to be discovered. Imagine holding the envelope in your hands. It feels light, almost fragile, yet you know that within it lies something precious. It is not merely ink on paper, it is the essence of a life, the voice of someone who crossed time to meet you. And in feeling this, you realize that, in some way, you too have become part of this invisible bridge between present and future. To be a guardian does not only mean to protect. It also means to respect, to understand, and, at times, to share. To keep something in silence can be an act of love, just as sharing it can be a gesture of hope. Both paths hold value, for the true power lies in recognizing the importance of the secret. As you imagine yourself as guardian, your body relaxes even more. Your heartbeat slows, your mind quiets, and you find yourself walking gently between thoughts and dreams. The simple act of imagining is enough to cradle you into sleep. For, just like the letter, you too rest in silence, protected by time and embraced by the universe. And perhaps, before deep sleep arrives, you may ask yourself, what is the letter I carry within me? The answer may not come now, but it exists, hidden in some corner of your soul, waiting for the right moment to be written, read, or dreamed. Thus, you become the guardian not only of the scientist's letter, but also of your own stories. And as you fall asleep, that silent secret transforms into companionship, guiding your mind softly toward deep rest. Just as the letter rests in secret, allow your mind to rest as well. Each breath brings you closer to a deeper state of calm, as though you yourself were being cradled by the night. Inhale slowly, feel the air filling your lungs, expanding your chest like a gentle wave. Hold that moment for just a brief instant, and then release the air softly, as if letting go of a weight you no longer need to carry. Repeat this simple gesture, and notice how with each cycle your body feels lighter, looser, more surrendered to rest. Just as the envelope sleeps silently among forgotten books, your mind too can rest now, keeping only what it needs and letting go of the rest. There is no rush, no demand. Only an invitation to peace. Imagine each thought that arises as a leaf carried away by the night wind. You do not need to follow it. Simply watch as it drifts softly, until it vanishes into the serene darkness of the starry sky. Little by little, the mind becomes clear and calm, like a lake reflecting only the moon. The letter, hidden and protected, knows that time will care for it. And you too can trust that sleep will care for you. There is no need to force it, only to allow it. Sleep is like a discreet visitor who arrives when space is made. And now, the space is ready. Each deep sigh is like closing another door to the day that has passed. Behind them remain responsibilities, noises, and haste. Before you lies only the path of rest, illuminated by the serenity of the night. Allow your body to fully let go. From feet to head, a wave of relaxation spreads like a soft blanket. Feel that blanket covering you, bringing warmth, protection, and calm. As though the universe itself were cradling you in the invisible arms of the night. And just as the letter waits in silence, you too can wait for sleep. There is no effort, only trust. A silent call already echoing within you, guiding you gently toward deep rest. If this story has calmed your mind and brought peace to your heart, subscribe to the channel and share this moment with someone who also deserves rest and serenity. May your dreams be as light as the stars, and may your night be deeply restorative. The letter rests in silence, kept safe by time. And you too may rest now, knowing that each breath is a thread to calm, each sigh a bridge into deep sleep. Allow yourself to cross this night as one crossing a serene river, carried by the gentle current that leads inevitably to rest. Each word has already fulfilled its purpose, not only to tell a story but to awaken within you the reminder that peace exists, even within mysteries unsolved. Just as the scientist entrusted his words to the future, you can entrust your mind to sleep. Time will take care of the rest. If this moment has brought you serenity, remember to return whenever you need it. There are many other stories waiting for you here, ready to cradle your dreams and ease your thoughts. Your presence here is precious, and your subscription helps this space of calm grow and reach others who also need rest. May your night be wrapped in the promise of silence and the gentle melody of tranquility. May each star in the sky remind you that you are never alone, and that there will always be light guiding your dreams. Sleep well, rest deeply, and awaken renewed for a new dawn.